We streaming live, courtesy of Creative Digital Media. From wherever that you're tuning in, we want to appreciate you so much, knowing that this is a month of love, and we're doing it good here at Cruise FM. We are giving you discounted rates for advertising. We just off Ntare Road, Bomber Hill is where you can find us, and bring all the kind of businesses that you want to spike up this year so that you create mileage for it. With very small rates, you can advertise with us. The team is already with me in studio, and this is going to be a very action-packed show, because certainly there is a lot to talk about. Knowing that guns are blazing in Eastern Congo, and niceness happened at the Supreme Court, I'm very sure that whoever is watching or listening or consuming a lot of content on social media knows what really happened. But before we get into the topic of discussion, let me give you a rewind of the week. We know that the US President Donald Trump issued orders stopping any funding in external aid support to African countries, including Uganda. US aid support has definitely been a very vital source of funding for the health sector in Uganda, and now we know that those that have been able to benefit or prefer, that provides drugs, for example, ARVs and PrEP and PAPE and all that, this is purely an American funding, with Donald Trump issuing that executive order stopping this kind of funding. What does it mean for over 5 million HIV patients that are living positively in our country? That is something that we can be able to talk about. And just very sad news, the Internal Security Organization Director, Brigadier General Charles Soluka, passed away at Entebbe Hospital, where he had been rushed. And it's very sad. Intelligence officers rarely speak. We've just been known about his brilliancy and output, but later is known as he never gets interviewed and all that. But at least certainly we know that we are safe because of the work of the intelligence services of our country. And we stand with the soldiers and the UPDF for losing one of their own, and the country and every person that is within the family circles of General Oluka. May his soul rest in peace. Now, Uganda's Supreme Court upheld the lower court ruling against the trial of civilians in military courts in a landmark judgment delivered by 7-bench Supreme Court justices in the famous appeal of Attorney General versus Michael Kabazguruka. And just to get of what some of these justices had to say, and I can get you for sure, Alfonso Winnie Dolo, pending trials before the General Court Martial involving civilians must immediately cease. Elizabeth Musoke, Army Court lacks independence and it is not impartial when trying civilians. Monica Mjenyi, who said if a civilian abates crime with a soldier, they should be tried in the military court. But Judicial Service should appoint military court members there. Then Mike Chibita, remit all cases of civilians in army courts to civilian courts. Pasit Wahase, who says justice cannot be done during trial of civilians in army courts. Faith Monda, I concur with the judgment of the Chief Justice there. And Catherine Bamgemereire, who literally trended and put a smile on so many Ugandans, trial of civilians in army courts is unconstitutional. And we know certainly Section 117 of the UPDF Act is void for vagueness and therefore inconsistent with the right to a fair trial enshrined under the Article 28, Sub-Article 2, 12 of the Constitution there. And there was a lot of citation. The General Court Martial is a subordinate court under Section 129 of the Constitution. And Justice Chivita definitely agreed that civilians be remitted to the civilian courts for review. Section 117 1G is unconstitutional and therefore null and void. And something interesting from Elizabeth Musoke, who found that the General Court Martial is established as a military organ of the UPDF to instill discipline to members of the force, and the nature of punishment is limited to disciplinary sanctions like dismissal with disgrace. The General Court Martial exceeds its jurisdiction by trying offenses that attract imprisonment and death. And let's see what Nice Passit has to say. The General Court Martial would be competent if it were a court of law with the requisite structures to conduct a fair hearing. The General Court Martial is not competent to hear criminal matters other than matters relating to the discipline of soldiers. The meme going around that if Counsel Aaron Cheese are called the General Court Martial a tribunal, the Supreme Court has gone ahead to say it's not even a tribunal, it's a disciplinary body. To help me discuss this and much more is Peter Mpaka. He's a member of the National Unity Platform. Muvunya Katamba Stephen, who is a councillor from Chitagwenda. He wants to represent those people as the chairperson, in fact, of Chitagwenda district. Wahab Muhanguzi, who is a lawyer. And Havu Asimwe Banjizi, who is also a lawyer in a way. Then he belongs to the National Resistance Movement, Patriotic League of Uganda. Rugava Agavaviona, and he's a political analyst, political economist. But the M23 are blazing the guns in eastern Congo. They carried out an offensive that claimed lives and caused displacement of persons in an invasion to capture Goma city in Kivu province, creating a lot of instability in the Great Lakes region. Now, if at all you saw the statements of General Paul Kagame to the heads of state in that meeting that was hurriedly conducted by the chairperson of the ESC, where he called President Ramaphosa of South Africa to bring it on if at all he thinks he can dare Rwanda. And Rugava, good morning and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning to you. And I take the opportunity to welcome my colleagues who have joined us today to discuss this important issue. It's important to us, not only as a country, but as humanity, because if you have people who are suffering in any region, then you can't just sit and say, no, maybe it's not in our area. So it concerns all of us. To look at the Congolese question,
voice on what is taking place both in Uganda and international and national. Thank you.
All right, welcome, Wahab. Let me welcome Muvunya. Good morning and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning, our listeners and viewers of today. It is a very good morning, and I will welcome you all.
How are the people of Chitagwenda?
The people of Chitagwenda are okay. We are now, there is sunshine, and we are preparing to plant as the new season comes. Secondly,
harvesting maize.
As we harvest, we're also planning for the new season. And secondly, we have a vibe. It is a political season.
Yes.
We are now seeing new faces coming for the first time. A person who got lost around 10 years ago is coming this time to say, now you know me, I've been your friend, blah, 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 blah. So it is a time of comedy. We are seeing a lot of things happening in our areas.
Yes.
So we are happy. People are enjoying.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to the Big Set.
Vibe season.
Yes. Good morning, Peter Mpaka, and welcome to the Big Set.
Yeah, good morning, West J, and good morning, our dear listeners, and of course, good morning to the management of Cruise FM. I wish you good cruising this morning.
Okay. Yes, good morning, Comrade Asimwe Banjizi, and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning, Westgate. Good morning, my fellow panelists and the people that give us a reason to be here every Saturday morning. Our dear listeners, it's been a while, but I'm back because I'm a big seater and I've been participating and following online. The lads have been doing a good job. My take home this week, Vanyaji, I for one, I just pray and wish all our developmental partners to cut off all the aid so that we wake up from this slumber mode, sleeping mode, and we realize and appreciate that we need to hold our governments accountable, and no one will keep on extending a free hand to us because we pay taxes here. We don't pay taxes in America or England or Europe, so we must resolve our issues here.
Okay. This week, I went to a school to apply for a senior one placement. The headmaster told me they only admit people from Western Uganda and Catholics strongly. And it's something that I found very surprising. Now, knowing that How Was Your Week is a segment of the Big Seat, a school admitting only persons from Western Uganda, is obnoxious, for lack of a better word. But let's see, come back for after that breather. We shall be getting to a topic of discussion. First, we shall talk about what happened at the Supreme Court before we manage what is happening in Goma. Yes.
Maybe Wanyaji,
Yes.
you have hit a very strong word this morning. You would have begun with that one. It has really touched me.
Yes.
You enter into a public school and somebody tells you that there is a particular group of people that is allowed to study that school.
Yes.
It is very ridiculous.
In Mbarara here.
In Mbarara here?
In Mbarara here.
I wish that when we get out here,
Yes.
you whisper the name of that school. So that you also,
Let's
also
talk.
know.
Okay, let's come back. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
We're back. It's about 20 minutes past 9 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. My name is Wesi Gevanyaji. We on social media, 912 Cruise FM on X and 91.2 Cruise FM on Facebook and Instagram. Cruise TV for YouTube and TikTok. We are live, so you can be able to stream and enjoy it. Cutters of Creative Digital Media. Now, with me in studio is Asim Webanjisi, who is a political commentator, member of the National Resistance Movement, Wahab Mwanguzi, who is a lawyer, and I have Muvunya Stephen Katamba, who wants to be chairperson Chitagwenda. He belongs to the National Resistance Movement. Peter Mpaka, who is a member of the National Inter Platform, and Rogava Gavaviona, who is a political economist. Let me start with Wahab, since you are the lawyer here. The Supreme Court, in a very awaited decision of Mike Kabazuguruka and the Attorney General, what's the take home?
Good morning, gentlemen in the studio and the listeners. Once again, Musinguzi, you call me Mwanguzi.
Yeah, Musinguzi, yes. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Wahab. And the Supreme Court definitely yesterday had been put on test, as I can say, to reinstate the decision of Michael Kabazuguruka, the Attorney General versing Michael Kabazuguruka in 2015, And also there was a back decision in Anthony General versus Captain Byamujisha, so which we are all talking about not taking civilians in military courts, which was really unconstitutional. And yesterday it came out from the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, the Catherine Bamugemere, all of the competent justices in Uganda, as we can say, and we have seen now justice prevailing. Though it was delayed, we say that justice delayed is justice denied. But facts speak themselves. Yesterday we saw it at least being held independent, as we had been waiting to see. Perhaps we see now the CDF coming out and saying that maybe that decision will not work. And we see yesterday telling Ugandans that now the military court-martial or the general court-martial, it is a disciplinary committee. It is not even a tribunal, because they said that general court-martial, it is subjected to military personnel, where they can the military personnel can be disciplined in reducing their ranks, or maybe and they are not even allowed to be sent in prison, because they don't have that jurisdiction, or they don't have powers. So what do we see in Uganda's justice forum? We see now the justice being transparent to that level, where we see justices are now getting into the legs or the shoes of civilians.
Yeah.
Because now we see that Justice Bamugemirire talking about Article 212 that talks about the police. The army, it is supposed to at least protect the country. It is not supposed to protect the civilians. The civilians are supposed to be protected by the police under Article 212 to protect and serve the civilians under the law and the constitution.
Okay, thank you. I want to bring in Peter Mpaka for a particular reason. The Supreme Court made a judgment that was welcomed especially by members of the opposition. But the same Supreme Court, when it makes a decision that is not as in good terms or to the expectations of the opposition, it's name called. They are called cadre judges. They say the judiciary is under the arms of General Museveni and it's not transparent. It works at his whims. Here it was a 7-bench Supreme Court justices, very competent individuals, cited the law, made reference to the Constitution, made pronouncements. Joy was overheard. And all this was in the interest of the opposition. Is this now meant to remind you that the judiciary is as independent as it can get?
I really want to tell you, SJ, and our dear listeners, that the ruling of the Supreme Court was not in the interest of the opposition. It was in the interest of the nation and the country and the citizenry of Ugandans. It was all in our interest. It was all in our interest, because if this practice had been upheld, the next time you in the NRM who are running government, actually not even the next time, next year, when the drums change tone, we would be arresting you for no good reason and presenting you before a military court. Yet you're civilians. So to all change lovers, whether you're putting on a yellow dress, or you're putting on a blue shirt, or you're putting on a red beret, we all are in a joyous mood. And that does not mean that the judges of President Museveni are independent. No. For once, they have won our trust. For once, we have seen them, Because I think even before, every lawyer, every senior counsel was worried. Everyone. I saw Elias Lukwago on one of the TV stations in a news bulletin. The man was fidgeting. The man was like about to cry. He was saying, what if this... You see? So it does not mean that we have erased with a rubber, with just one judgment, partiality of Museveni's judges who are appointed by him. Until we also move to that point and say, who appoints the Electoral Commission? Let us have a supreme ruling on this. You can't be the player and you're the linesman. And also you are the referee. Until we move and make changes on who appoints the CDF. Until we make changes on who appoints the courts or the judges of the Supreme Court. Until we make a total overhaul. So I only pray that this becomes a catalyst, stimulates a bigger question of where do we still want changes in this country.
Okay.
So for us, we cannot say, oh, it's ours, oh, it ends with us, moreover, it's us who have been suffering. But for us, it is for the whole of Uganda. And we pray that these comic statements being issued out by some of the big men in this government should really be undermined. This ruling should be upheld, both in word, in black and white, and in action.
Thank you. Rugaba agaba byona ruhanga. I keep twisting the words, but nevertheless, I want to engage you on the element of, if this is what the Supreme Court thinks is fit in as far as dealing with civilian suspects is concerned. Now the military is caught up in a situation. A civilian is caught with guns and military fatigue and things that are only a monopoly of the UPDF, and they now have to go through the entire process of the civilian courts, the judicial criminal justice system, which is bureaucratic, which is very delayed. And some of these elements are organized as of serious crime, like terrorism. Do you think the Supreme Court was blind in some of those very special needs that some of these, the handlers of our security apparatus must engage some of these suspects?
Why is the process bureaucratic? The other side. Maybe that's the issue that we need to address. But before we look at that, Mr. Wesigi and my colleagues here, I want to first express my disappointment with the legal system sometimes. They attempt to apply logic where there is no need for logic. When you look at the question of the General Court Martial and whether it's a court, a tribunal, or a disciplinary committee, it really requires no logic. It's a disciplinary system. That's why even the chairman of the tribunal or the court doesn't have to be with a legal qualification. So for you to get such a system and you want to subject it to civilians and so on, it's unfair. You don't need 4, 5, 7 years or 8 months, as the CJ was saying, to really determine this issue. It's the same thing that you find with some of these land cases, especially with boundaries. If you have a land in a village where there are people who have stayed in that same village for 50 years, 60 years, then you don't need 10 years to determine where the boundaries of that land is. So you don't need to apply logic on some of these things. Just look at them the way they are and determine. So you asked, you brought in the aspect of monopoly. The courts are saying that if the military thinks they should handle this case, there should be evidence to prove that the civilian courts are unable to handle this case. So if I am found with a military hardware, then I should be subjected to courts where I think I will receive fair judgment. So it's the duty of the military to prove that actually these civilian courts will not accord fair judgment as the way they deem or they want to define what they call a fair judgment in that case. So I find no problem at all, and I want to thank the Supreme Court for finally coming forward and putting this case to rest. it's something that will happen, that will help those of us who are here today and those who are going to follow us. But another thing that we also need to look at, that we have a history of not respecting court decisions. So much as the court pronounced itself yesterday, we still wait to see what will happen. Owing on the previous, our history that we've shown before, there's still a possibility that what was pronounced might not be put into practice. Talk about the people who are in courts right now, who are battling courts cases in the general court martial. We even talked about them. What happens to them? I understand the likes of Bessie are supposed to be presented to court on Wednesday or so. On Monday, that's the day after tomorrow. So we don't know if they are going to be brought to court or not. So such questions are yet to be, are yet to be settled. Look at the general court martial again. The officers or the men in uniform so are agents to commander-in-chief. So what happens to cases where the commander-in-chief has interest? So how will they determine such a cases? So you realize that there will be bias in that case. So they should restrict their intervention to people that they have control over, and those are none other than the men in uniform. In circumstances where a crime is committed in partnership, or someone who is or the team that are participating this in such a crime from the civilian world and at the same time from the military world, maybe two people involved, just like we brought Kano, who there is a guy that was added on VSG's case. So we can still draw the line to say, okay, if men in uniform can go to the general court martial for disciplinary cases, but when it comes to matters that go beyond the discipline, then they should also be taken to civilian courts. That's why they are established, so that they can dispense justice to citizens in unbiased manner.
All right, thank you. Katamba Muvunya, you had the judgment by the Supreme Court there, stating clearly that all along the UPDF has been perpetuating an illegality, trying civilians in the military courts. This has been a cry by so many Ugandans. We know that certainly after the 2021 election, we had many members of the National Unity Platform, banded up and taken to the military court martial, and the young men and women spent over 4 years literally on remand, and we saw the scenes that happened until the deal with Bargahara came out, and we saw until Dr. Kizza Besigye was taken in there, and the protest literally that was on because of the conduct of these military officials. What does that speak about our kind of judicial system? Would there be a situation where, for example, the military is now going to respect civilian authority?
You see, in the democracy ways, democracy leadership, this is how a country is managed. This one that has happened has proved that this country is managed under a constitutional law. So it is a win to the government. Because we are now, the propagandists that judiciary works on pressure under the government, the ruling government. This time, it has been clearly proved by the public that this country is managed under the constitution laws of Uganda. Number two is, I think there is relief. Relief from the people in uniform, for those who have been complaining that the court martial is squeezing them hard when it comes to issues of court. However, my worries also, like you said, that what do you expect for the people who may mismanage the monopoly of the UPDF, or the monopoly of Uganda forces? What will happen to them? How will they be managed without the court martial? because constitutionally, when you got these civil courts, see, those things are not there. So the interpretation may affect the public. For example, when you see what is happening in opposition, the way they behave, the way they put on, the way they behave. The other day, I saw Bobo Wayne in a meeting. The man behaved like a commander. He was like putting on a uniform. Of course, it is not like this one military store, but it resembles it. Red overall. Is he a military man? He's a military man. He's a military man.
He's our commander.
Commanding what? Which force? Which force did you broke?
Let's have him.
So now that is my worry. My worry is that the opposition is going to take advantage and mismanage the monopoly of the UPDF. So we are going to have a confusion. So I am scared of how the constitution and the laws of this country are going to manage the people who are going to defy and misuse the military stores. So me, I'm worried. I'm worried at what happened yesterday, and I'm not sure how we are going to, because court martial has been a tool to manage the people that want to pass through the windows to dismantle this country.
Something here.
Please.
I want to interject in. Really, I wouldn't want the NRM propagandist here to water down the topic we are discussing. There is, when a person is subjected to the law, there is nothing like the law is being soft on you or the law is being hardcore on you. No, there's nothing like that. Even when I expect, actually, I want to tell the listeners and the Ugandans who are listening that even when a civilian, these people who have been in military court, have been transferred to a civilian court, we shouldn't expect the civilian court now to be romancing them, as you're trying to say, to be so lenient to them. No, if they are core criminals, the law should be as tight as it should have been. So I want to really put that aside. Don't try to say the other court. The other one was an incompetent court. It's like putting a businessman in a theater to operate a woman giving birth, to do a C-section. That's what the military courts have been doing to Ugandans. That they are wheelbarrow pushers who are trying to fly an aeroplane. How do you do that? So, and that's where we are saying that you don't water it down to say that these ones have been so hard, so tough. So what you saw how they handled this lawyer of Chiza message, Aaron Chiza. You make a case, you present it yourself. You read it, you judge it, no one argues, no one defends, and then you also sentence, and you also imprison immediately. So you see, that is incompetence. It's a wheelbarrow pusher that is flying a passenger plane.
That is why yesterday in Bamugeri's decision said that the General Court Martial is unconstitutional because whichever that it is doing, it is unconstitutional, because as the case that he has brought of Aaron Kiza, the man was not given a chance to be heard under Article 21. He was not given a chance to get an advocate. He was not given a chance of each and everything. So,
but you're a lawyer, sir, and you know certainly the position of contempt of court. There is discretion of a judicial officer to sentence you without any prior hearing. So if the law is very clear on what a judicial officer's authority lies, then why would you question such a conduct?
You see, sometimes the constitution itself, it is the supreme law of the land. And it tells that you have to be heard before, because Aaron Kiza was denied to get on the bar. And as lawyers, you have to go to the bar to present your person in court. So why was he denied to get to the bar? And he had a very lenient point. So the General Court Martial did not look into those things, and without even mentioning any law, sentencing him to 9 months, which was even illegal, because that sentencing, it was maybe to be of 2 months or even 6 weeks.
Actually, information.
Yes.
fine, it was in contravention of the law in regards to the length of the term, because even the UPDF Act provides for only 30 days in regards to contempt of court. But nevertheless, we must give credit where it's due. I've already said this madness and nonsense of appreciating people when they are being buried or after their death, I will never be party to it. Irrespective of the history of our judiciary, we must give credit to the Constitutional Court in its first ruling, because it had ruled in favor of Honorable Michael Kabaziguruka and the Attorney General, and the powers that might be in government felt like the ruling wasn't in favor or appropriate in regards to the agenda that is always implemented or meant to be executed by the General Court Martial. Furthermore, credit has to go to our Chief Justice and the Supreme Court Justices, especially the ladies, Bamugemerire, Monica, and they did, for once, they made Ugandans proud and have faith and belief in our judicial system. Credit also to His Excellency, because he's the one that appoints these justices and judges, the justices to the Supreme Court, the justices to of the Constitutional Court that also doubles as the Court of Appeal. Even in his remarks yesterday after the judgment was made, that has far-reaching consequences and which is appropriate. I don't see any reason as to why, even it has taken this long, it should be non-negotiable. It should not even be a topic to discuss. Let civilians be tried in civilian courts, and the creators of the 1995 Constitution, by the time they came up with the issue of having the general, these military tribunals or military courts, call them whatever you want to call them, was for them to have a disciplinary effect in regards to keeping the serving officers in order. Actually, even yesterday, in the judgment of Justice Catherine Bamugemerire, she even went ahead to, in her recommendations to Parliament and the Executive, because they recommended and all agreed in unison that they need to make serious amendments to the UPDF Act, because it has several loopholes that these people have been trying to exploit, loopholes that contravene the provisions of the Constitution, especially these non-derogable rights under Article 28 and Article 44C, irrespective of the circumstances or whatever might be transpiring or the magnitude, the size of the offense. Those ones are there. You're entitled to them. A right to a fair hearing as provided for under Article 28, Clause 3. Your right to a counsel of your choice, legal representation, and I loved the Chief Justice when he gave that example of him being well educated, but he cannot go to Murago to work on a patient in the theater because he would hardly differentiate kidneys from liver. And actually, majority Ugandans, if you're not in the medical fraternity, even the way we are here, apart from Peter Ampaka, who is a medical practitioner, we can hardly differentiate those two. And he guided that how he wishes in the new amendments or the new bill that will be tabled by the government to make amendments to the UPDF Act, they should put provisions to appoint qualified judges at the level of the High Court to be in charge of these military courts. Then for the UPDF, it gets a team of competent people to be among the juries of those military courts, so that the decision that is made cannot be challenged.
There is a matter that I want to engage all of you gentlemen, is that we're looking at the matter of security as ordinary citizens that are very ignorant of how security is managed. You have hardcore criminals that, with all intents and purposes, intended to overthrow government through the use of arms. And these persons are going to mobilize and carry out all these attempts. And you're going to expect them to be tried in civilian courts with all the evidence gathered under the lawyers that we know, the state prosecutors and all these. And they will not be able to obtain any kind of evidence that can implicate some of these individuals that are hardcore criminals. You see, now sidestepping the machinery of the military that is able to, one, extract the information that is required for national security, but also because some of these operations cannot be conventional. They cannot be as business as usual, and some of these hardcore criminals taken through that same criminal justice system. You may never even get a conviction for some of these elements.
I disagree with you. The fact that we have several agencies of government, of security, that are mandated and they are well funded. Actually, our security takes the lion's share of our budget, and they are manned by professionals. So the onus is on them to be in charge, to be on top of their game. That's one. Two, the Penal Code Act is very clear. All these offenses, capital offenses, treasonable offenses, they all have punishments. So if someone is sleeping on his or her job, let them be fired.
Okay.
Let us get competent people. And finally, in regards to the gathering of evidence, in this modern age and era, we have several tools of technology. Uganda, we are advancing globally. It's upon the government to rake. They do due diligence, they gather intelligence. No one is saying or no one is supporting anything that can compromise our security. I will never be party to that, and that's the reason as to why every time I'm here, I complain about the money appropriated currently. There is an ongoing budget framework policy review from different ministries and different government sectors, but the money allocated to defense and security, I have no problem with it. It's always a lot, but without peace, security, tranquility, nothing can happen. Much as our prayer would be, these other wasteful expenditures should be revised and money should be diverted to education, agriculture, health, because currently the cost of those three, it takes a lot of our savings and everything. So for that one, and actually even it goes back to the courts themselves. They should always try to sit and pass judgments or rulings in regards to these capital offenses, so that if someone is a hardcore criminal or someone is a former rebel leader, expeditiously they pass judgment, so that we don't have scenarios of them being on remand more than the mandated stipulated days, and you find the lawyers demanding for their free release, bail bonds, this and that.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
maybe I can also see something that is going to be very terrible to handle, because now, like he said, like the Chief Justice said, that he's not a medical personnel to differentiate what is a kidney and the
liver
heart and the liver. Likewise, you see, these intelligence issues needs technicalities. Because if you are not a military man, it is also very difficult to know what belongs to the military, like a doctor, like he said. So now these are things that are going to contravene. Because let me finish.
Yeah, let him finish. Let Muvunya finish.
Because you see, a country.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Yes. You see, yes. A country depends on intelligence, and there are some intelligence that are not. They are not presentable in court.
That is true.
For a magistrate to see, because a magistrate needs to see things that are seeable and touchable. Most of the time, that's what they call evidence. But in the military, these are quite different. So now we are waiting to see scenarios, security going to arrest and keep a person incommunicable.
Yes.
And we also here come and argue who is this one, is not brought in court. Such things are going to happen. Things are going to be arrested and put in somewhere in unknown places.
Are you an advocate of
Unknown places. So
No, but
that's what we are. That's
but
what we
Mr.
expect.
Muvunya
That's what we
is
expect.
actually raising a very important element.
Because here in Africa,
Because prior the UPDF through now I think they
The
reformed the names, the former CMI.
Yes.
They would arrest hardcore criminals.
Yes.
Present them to the general military court martial,
yes.
have convictions.
But
You see now,
The Wembley-
we are going to have a situation where the UPDF is going to arrest some of these hardcore criminals and keep them incommunicado, like he's saying. Because even if they presented the evidence, they would never obtain a conviction through the conventional court system.
But Banyaji, Mr. Banyaji, the law
Yes.
is very clear. Section 75(3). It tells you that there are some offences which are not tried by the chief magistrate, but the high court.
Yes.
When you look at treason, when you look at treachery, when you look at those capital offences, they are supposed to be tried at the high court. When you are taken to a military court, the same as it had been before, you get a legal personnel to represent you. Where do that person get evidence from? Because now the DPP, as Article 120 enshrined, that the DPP has powers to investigate on each and every case in Uganda, whether it is military, whether it is civil, and civilians getting into military court. That's why they tell the civilians they should have legal representatives, and legal representatives are entitled to get evidence from within. We saw Rukwago going in Kenya to investigate. What makes now these DPP office not to go into those offices there? Because now in criminal case you have to prove 2 points. One, you have to prove actus reus and mens rea, and those are the things which a very layman can prove even without going into training.
Okay, Rugaba.
Now, if you want to understand the weight of an injustice, wait for it when it's on your head. So if you have an opportunity to condemn an injustice, you should use that platform. This is the point. To say that there are cases that the court might not give fair justice is to pass a vote of no confidence in those courts. So why are they there in the first place? So the responsibility of other investigation agencies is to gather the evidence and bring the evidence to court. So there is no justification at all to say that this court cannot offer justice. We need to protect courts or the justice system. Why? It's the last contact of hope for any humanity. It's the point where each and every person who feels aggrieved should run to. So if that system is vandalized, if that system is broken, then there is no hope for humanity. So that system must be protected to the last drop of blood in everyone's body.
Okay. Yes, Peter Parker.
And lastly, maybe for me, what I want to add is that on the point of people being held incommunicado, on sort of what he wants to phrase as classified intelligence or classified evidence, I don't think you can call evidence classified. Because if it is evidence and it's classified and we cannot see it, then it's not evidence. It doesn't exist. For example, the issue that we are not even touching here in our discussion so far is the politics in the General Court Martial. They will wake up and say, Peter Mpaka, you're putting on a red beret.
Like you're doing now.
Like I'm putting on a red beret right now. And then they will say, this is military store. We watched you on Cruise TV and this is the evidence. Then they take me to the General Court Martial where order is Moja. But me, I'm putting on a red beret. But the red beret I'm putting on is not of military police and is not of the UPDF. This is a red beret having my badge. There is a logo on it. You can even read it. That this is something, because Intare School puts on a white shirt, Barra High School puts on a white shirt, Mbara Municipal puts on a white shirt. I've never heard entire school saying, you people of Municipal, stop, we are coming to fight you. Stop putting on a white shirt. You just see the badge of Ontari School with the lion, and you know this is a student of Ontari School.
Okay.
You see a badge of Mbara School with blue, and you know that. So for me, the politics is the issue. That you will wake up and arrest Vesije, and things are not like clear, and he's in a court martial. You will wake up and arrest Nupfoot soldiers because they are putting on the red overall, and then you put them before. So that is the most important thing. Let us separate the politics.
Okay. I have a comment coming in from someone that is anonymous. He's saying the Supreme Court ruling is like in the regime of Kawaka Imwanga being president and Obote being the prime minister. I think you met Kawaka Mtesa. Kawaka Mtesa being ceremonial was just in the Supreme Court ruling. But question was posed, what about civilians found in military stores? I think the Supreme Court made an explanation to that. They should be tried in the civilian courts. The Supreme Court made a decision to please the public, but didn't address the loopholes of gross disciplinary issues with regards to the UPDF's handling of the stores. Even if it's true that civilians should be tried in civilian courts, we are talking about courts that are already backlogged with cases, and there are cases that involve sensitive issues that our judges cannot handle due to the need to keep intelligence from the public and other factors. But on the plus side, the civilians didn't win, but those with the uniform did, because now our bill and the new act can be amended officially, making the SFC an official security organ, which is a big win for Mzee. And, well, thank you. Let's stop for a breather. When we come back right into the second hour of the show, we'll be talking about Congo and everything that has to do with M23. Don't touch your radio. We'll be right back. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
Biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. My name is Wesige Banyaji. You can listen to the show on cruisefm.com/stream. That's when you go to our website. It's just clear like that. You just tap on that play button. You'll be able to enjoy the show very seamlessly. For those that have data, you can be able to watch what is transpiring here on Plot 12 Mutilen, where we are deliberating about the outcome of the judgment that was made by the Supreme Court just about yesterday. We have a statement coming in. A friend of mine has just shared what Chris Majesi said in an UPDF official statement. The General Court Martial will continue to try anyone who conspires to murder the president, commits armed rebellion against Uganda, and engages in terrorism against the people of Uganda. Under no circumstances will Kano Kizza Besigye be released until he faces the full extent of the court martial or the martial law. The final decision on the matter will be taken to the Commander-in-Chief and the Chairman of the High Command, General Yoweri Kaguta Tebogabura Museveni. And that's Chris Majesi, who is a very famous spokesperson of the Special Forces Command. Let's get to hear from you on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. I'm going to pick only 2 calls before we get into our next topic of discussion. Call in on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. I want to hear you on what you think about the judgment that was delivered by the Supreme Court. The Big Seat. Yes, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Perez. I'm calling in from Bweza Masisi.
Yes, Supreme Court ruling.
First, thanks for your program. And for the Supreme Court rule, I think it's right because these usual people should not be really put in the court, in the martial court.
All right, that was spot on. The Big Seat.
Wesley,
Yes, good morning.
good morning. This is Conrad Nwaiz in Chigoto, Chitagwenda.
Yes, Conrad in Stagwend.
Yeah, I want to start the panel the show. But to me, I think the judge of the Supreme Court is right because you can't judge a normal person in the court of the soldiers and the what and the army plus what you can call them. I think it is obviously wrong. You can't judge me when I'm a student. You judge me from maybe in the courts of the other schools, many other schools which are not part of my school when I'm a student. I think you judge me in the school where I study from. So the Supreme Court is right in what it judged yesterday.
All right, just gotten that feedback from the callers. I want to appreciate you so much. And later on, I'll give you an opportunity to engage much more. But on our social media handles, 912 Cruise FM on X and 91.2 Cruise FM on Facebook. I've put a question on what you think about the everlasting solution for Congo is concerned and right into a discussion. The M23, which is predominantly Tutsi, invaded Goma, captured it. And we saw the statements of President Paul Kagame of Rwanda clearly stating, let it be known worldwide that the M23 are not Rwandan. They are Congolese. What they're fighting for are their rights within the Congo. And we know that President Tshisekedi, who is the president of Congo, out in a statement said the forces of the DRC are well mobilized to counter the M23 and they will push them back and out of the DRC. To help me discuss this and much more is Peter Mpaka, Mufunya Stephen, Musinguzi Wahab, and Asimwe Banjusi and Rugaba Agavabiona. Let me start with Rugaba. What do you think is the everlasting solution for the Congo crisis?
With humanity, there's no everlasting solution because as events change, even solutions change. Sometimes a contemporary solution might not answer historical problem, so you need to be, dynamic all the time. But look at the Congo question, then you need to look at least these three significant time events. One, we look at the events of 1800s. Here I'm talking about the Berlin Conference and so on, which created these boundaries and said maybe Uganda will stop here, DRC will start from here, and so on. Then we also need to look at the events of 2008 leading to the peace agreement of 2009 that created the M23. Then you also need to look at the current events, maybe M23 marching to Goma just a few days ago. So that's where we need to start from. And they all bring the question of whether people fighting in Congo are Rwandans or Congolese. And the basic truth is these are Congolese of, should we say, Rwandese speaking Congolese. As long as the leadership in Kinshasa doesn't want to accept that simple fact, then there will never be a lasting solution. We have
maybe the question I would put for you is Kinyarwanda a regional language? For you to say that these people are Congolese but speaking Kinyarwanda, is Kinyarwanda a regional language?
So that question takes us back to 1800s, as I talked about, when these boundaries were being created. When you come here in Uganda, you'll find people speaking Kinyarwanda, but they're Ugandans. You'll find people speaking Kifumbira, but they are Ugandans. We cannot say that those who are speaking Kinyarwanda and are in Uganda should actually go back to Rwanda. No, it's because these were tribes that were divided, actually without even their own knowledge. They never consented to be divided. Someone sat somewhere and drew the line and said, this one should fall this side. So where they were pushed is now where they belong, regardless of their language. So those who speak Kinyarwanda and are in Congo, and according to the boundaries they are actually Congolese, then they should be considered as Congolese. We come to 2008 conflict and so on, which led to the peace deal of 2009, and ask then why was it not respected? So the Congolese question has other, I may call them 4 dynamics. We need to look at the question of ethnicity, which I've just addressed. resulting from the communities that were separated because of the decisions of people who are sitting in Berlin and so on. It has a dynamic of economics. We all know that Congo is a rich country. Minerals and other natural resources. And where there is there are riches, you expect quarrels in most cases. So there is a question of economics. Those who are targeting the riches of Congo, some of those are local players, others are international players, and we are not talking about them adequately the way we should. We are not actually condemning them the way they should. We know that these minerals are smuggled from Congo, taken through some countries, and some of them end up in Europe, some of them end up in Asia, and so on. So those parties also have interest in Congo, and they keep fueling the conflicts of Congo. So as long as that issue is not addressed, then the conflict is still there. Another dynamic that I want us to talk about in Congo's question is the issue of governance. It's a fact that for very many years, the Kinshasa establishment has failed to exert its authority on the entire Congolese land. You find the government, because of the vastness of the Congo as a country, the government in Kinshasa has literally concentrated on some parts, leaving out other areas. So there is power, there is leadership vacuum in other areas, and of course, when there is vacuum,
but that is lame. That is really lame. That is lame because Congo is not the big. DRC is not the biggest country in the world. We have Russia.
But then
we have India.
That
Why
counters
is India?
your argument, because now
India?
That should not be every other person's problem minus Congo, and that's what he's stating. That failing to assert power across all the borders of the Congo is a problem of the Congolese government.
That's the point I'm making, but I don't know why my friend
it
Peter
was difficult for him to understand.
Because it's actually the responsibility of the Kinshasa government to make sure that it exerts its authority onto its entire land, which it's failing. And once you fail, you create that power vacuum, which is now being taken advantage of. We know the rebel groups that are operating. Even when Kony was being chased, he ended up somewhere in Congo before crossing to Central African Republic and so on. So it's the duty of the Kinshasa government to develop the capacity to take care of its borders. Then lastly, I will talk about the issue of geopolitics. When you listen to Kagame, what I like about him, whether what he's saying is you agree with it or not, when you see him, when you watch him, his tone, his face says it all.
He's a bitter man.
It says it all. It says, I'm in and I'm in. No way. So the issue of geopolitics. Uganda is interested in Congolese affairs. That's why we're even constructing roads there. I don't know if the return on investment is worth it. Rwanda is interested in Congolese affairs. South Sudan is interested in Congolese affairs. That issue of geopolitics, where other stakeholders feel like they should intervene in your affairs, partly because you fail to develop your own internal mechanisms to solve your problems, is also a problem that is fueling this Congolese issue.
All right.
So if these are not handled, then there will not be a permanent solution for this conflict.
Peter.
What I may recommend, however, is that the leadership in Kinshasa needs to sit and put aside their ego. They need to appreciate that the country is bigger than them. They need to put aside these small, issues, and then work for the best interest of their country.
Thank you, Rugaba. The Congo question is literally like the Palestine-Israel question. So many actors, so many interests, because we know certainly that literally it has now pulled in all nations in sub-Saharan Africa, in as far as South Africa. Angola, Uganda, literally the whole of sub-Saharan Africa is drawn down on what is happening in Eastern Congo. We know it's not the first time that we've had fights from way back in 96 with the first invasion of Rwanda and Uganda to, remove Mobutu Sese Seko, and they brought in Kabila. And the fights that now ended up to the ICJ, where Uganda literally is meant to pay about $4 billion to the Congo. And we know the conflict it created between General Museveni and General Kagame. We are back to square one, where everyone says Banyamulenge belong to Congo, and but President Tshisekedi is saying you are supporting the Banyamulenge to move all up to Kinshasa and take up government, and all this conflict that is within the Congo. What is the solution for the Congo crisis?
Thank you so much. I think dialogue and openness and willing conversation is the way forward for the Congo, and intently from the heart and with clarity, with all the clarity it needs. Because for me, my main issue in the Congo is tribal. For me, it is the politics of tribalism. Because I've not heard the people of Busia in Kenya complaining that the people of Busia in Uganda belong to Kenya, and therefore Kenya should annex that part of eastern Uganda. I've not heard the Maasai of Tanzania complaining that the Maasai in Kenya are their brothers, and therefore the Maasai in Tanzania should be annexed to Kenya, or vice versa. I think we have a threatened government in Rwanda, and we also have a threatened government in DRC. And because each of them is threatened, we are trading counter accusations. And for me, Kagame, in trying to project a military tone, is wrong. And also Tshisekedi, in trying to project a military solution, is wrong. This is the complexity of it. Tshisekedi, the East African community sent a standby force in DRC on a peacekeeping mission. Okay, with other ill motives, of course, and I didn't want to go there because Rugaba has already given the ill motives, Timba Congo and whatever. But now it is also that is also a very important issue. But you see, the government of Tshisekedi instructed the East African Standby Force to join a rebel group called the FDLR and fight along with them and push M23 out. The East Africans said, no, we are not. That's not in the standing orders we have. Then you have Kagame, you have Tshisekedi complaining that if you don't do this, the way you mentioned it, the M23 has an expansionist agenda of coming all the way here to uproot and destabilize the whole of Rwanda. So, I mean the whole of Kinshasa and whatever. So until we deal with that, and that's what caused a problem between Uganda, Museveni and Kagame in 2019. Because I saw a newsletter saying that a coordinator of the FDLR, by accident, actually even the president Museveni was forced to apologize for meeting that woman. The woman was called Mukankus. When Kagame got information that Mukankus of the FDLR had met Museveni in Entebbe, immediately the border was closed, and we had a 2-year problem here in Katuna. So the issue is Kagame is very carefully looking at who is supporting FDLR. Tshisekedi is also carefully looking at who is supporting M23 and trying to disorganize. So until the powers that be sit either to completely abolish M23 and also sit and completely abolish FDLR and sit to agree, because we don't have a problem with the Maasai in Tanzania and the Maasai in Kenya. We don't have a problem with the northerners of Sudan and some being in Uganda. So the issue of the border is not the problem. The issue is the hidden interests and the militarization in the region.
Let's stop for a break. We'll be right back. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music.
great friends.
Great friends.
We are back in some very contentious matter here. The Congo question we're discussing, and don't fail to be a part of the conversation. Go on our social media handles, 912 Cruise FM on X and 91.2 Cruise FM on Facebook. Katamba Muvunya, I think let the people understand the truth. The EXFA, who is the FDLR, whatever that French quotation is a Hutu rebel movement in Congo that is intended to destabilize Rwanda. M23 is a Tutsi organization that is Congolese, that is intended to take power in the Congo. It is very certain that President Paul Kagame, who is a Tutsi, could support the M23 to counter the EXFA that is in the Congo, that is a Hutu militia. Is this a tribal ethnic matter?
You see the controversy. Here, there are around 3 controversies that we need to understand clearly. Number one is Banyamulenge Congolese or Rwandese? Number 2, what is the reason that Congolese government is attacking the Nyanyamulenge? Here, the controversies here are, as you are aware, Africans, we are all migrants. Because here, even here, Banyankore, the story says Banyankore came from West Africa. We are not indigenous, all of us. So now, likewise, the story of Banyamulenge say they came from Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and Rwanda. That is why even their language dialects is not as similar as Kinyarwanda. Banyamulenge language is not Kinyarwanda. It is a mixture of this Tanzania language called the Bahaya. You know, there's a trade here in Karagwe. The Bahaya, then there is the Rurundi, then Kinyarwanda. So even if you listen to a Nyamulenge speaking, it is not the same as Munyarwanda speaking.
It is not exactly the same.
It is not.
But it sounds the same.
They can listen. They can hear each other.
It's like Runyankore and Ruchiga.
So now, it is not Kinyarwanda. It is not pure Kinyarwanda. The only similarity...
Yes, let's have Muvunya.
Yes, the only similarity is that the tooth you are talking about is they are cattle keepers, and Banyamulenge are also cattle keepers. So sometimes the outlook is almost the same. That's the connection there. Yes. So now, here...
I'm coming to you, sir. It takes a pleasure in writing your notes. Yes.
What is your problem? I can see him.
He's
I
biting.
can see him battling.
He's biting. But please get a pen.
Let him listen to me. Then after you
take
give
him
time.
to school, sir. Yes.
So now, of course, colonial time, when they were separating these countries, the Banyamulenge remained in the Congo. They remained in the Congo because they were natives. The problem here is this North Kivu has a lot of benefits in terms of minerals and timber. Number 2, this land is very fertile. So the Congolese government envy the Banyamulenge that lives in this area. Number 2,
How can you envy your own citizens?
What-
I don't understand. Does
it is
Museveni
one of the
envy?
conflicts.
Does Museveni envy Bukomansimbi where coffee is grown the most?
no, that is it is in the heart of Congolese. Because
We are meant
This
to
conflict,
understand.
no, these conflicts have been there. It is not today. Because the M23 is not created in 5 years or 10 years. It has been there even the time of Mobutu. Even the time of Mobutu, what happened was when the king of Congo, by that time, before colonialism, before independence, he had a very good relationship with Banyamulenge.
King Leopold, you mean?
Yes.
Of Belgium?
Yes, King Leopold the second had a very good relationship with the Nyamulenge. Number 1, they were cattle keepers. They used to give him cows. The secondly, they had beautiful women. So I think the Frenchmen were interested in the area. In the area. So from there, after independence, the conflict continued to happen, president per president. When Mobutu took over the government, he declared Banyamulenge a non-Congolese tribe. So he even forced them to go back to where?
To Rwanda.
To Rwanda. But for them, they said, no, Rwanda where? We don't know Rwanda. We are born from here. Time immemorial. Why are you forcing us? The conflict began there. Until today. Recently, when Kabila took over, but the issue has been escalating since then, up to today. When Kabila took over and entered into East African community, there was a peaceful agreement that was made in Kampala here. It said Banyamulenge should hand over the weapons to the Congolese government. That's number 2, be integrated in the army and the other government positions as one of the signs of citizenship, citizenry, participation in developing a country. Banyamulenge took over. They traveled up to Kinshasa. Those who were in the forces, the military men, they handed over their guns to the government. One of the promises was, after handing over the government,
The guns.
the guns, they are going to be transported back to where? To North Kivu, to their homelands, and resettle them as how you have been the government settling the people. Most who have been in conflicts with the government. When after handing over the government, they were taken over somewhere in a playground, kept there as refugees. For few days, the government would come, government forces, soldiers would come at night and murder them. So what happened? They escaped. I don't know how they either foot. They came by foot from Kinshasa up to their area. So that agreement failed there and then. When the forces of East Africa came to Congo, Kisekedi, the current president, employed the FDR, which is a rebel activity, a rebel militia of Rwanda, since genocide. When the genocide was in Rwanda, the Hutu made a militia group, and it stays in Congo up to today. It has been fighting Kagame, like our ADF here. So that one creates a conflict. In fact, Uganda were very good. When you are shielding a militia group that is fighting another state, then you become an enemy of the state.
We saw it here with Sudan when it
Very good.
With Uganda.
Yes.
It harbored the Lord's Resistance Army leader Joseph Kony
Yes,
and
and
the
they were
combatants.
therefore, I certainly believe that Kagame is right to choose Congo. Why is he harboring a militia group that is fighting his government?
But the militia, the Congolese government is also accusing Rwanda of supporting a group that wants to secede
There is
from
no
the
supporting.
Congo.
There is no supporting a group. This group belongs to Congo.
Where do they get guns? Where does the M23 get
They
the
know.
guns?
They know where they get the guns.
Where does
Okay, let me
They
give
know
you
where.
an-
No, let me end.
clues,
Let
please.
me. Yes, let me
Time
close
is
mine.
very fast spent.
Now, here, when these people came to Uganda, because when these forces came to East Africa, they chased them. They disorganized them and came to Rwanda. Some of them escaped to Rwanda. Some of them came here to Uganda and they were harbored here in Bahanga. We used to see them. We went to see the soldiers there, and some of them are in refugee camps. But the president warned Tshisekedi. He said, if these people are not settled down their area, you will never get peace. Because they are going to reorganize again. They organize here from Uganda, get contacts from colleagues in Rwanda and Burundi, and you get settled. You never get settled. He said, keep quiet. I know how I handle my own matters in this country. After 2 years, they organized and went back. And this is how now it has reached. Lastly, there is no way you can chase a member of the family of a home outside his house. It is very bad. It is inhuman. The Congolese government is doing something that even in front of God, they will answer. The Banyamulenge are bona fide occupants of Noskivu.
Why are Banyamulenge referred to as Congolese Tutsi then?
What's the problem? The problem is the Tutsi.
No, because we want to understand.
What is your problem?
If they are Congolese, why would they keep referring to them to an ethnic group that belongs to Rwanda?
A country has very many tribes. So Banyamulenge, I told you, because of having a similarity of cattle keeper and the rest of the things, they can also refer as Bahima, they can also refer as Batusi. That's kind of things. And those things are there. What they talk about. In Kenya, there is the cattle keepers. They are called who? There's
they are Samburu, they are Masai.
Masai and
yes,
Kalenjin. They are cattle keepers. Can you call them Tusi?
No, but then why are these ones
they are cattle keepers. They are cattle keepers.
Why are they now being referred to as Congolese Tutsi? If at all they are just cattle keepers.
It is because of the similarity. The similarity of being cattle keepers, the similarity of the outlook.
Okay.
That's why they call them
then we should start calling Basongora Ugandan Tutsis.
And by the way, let me tell you something. You have ever gone to Soro? You have ever gone to Soro?
Yes.
Are you aware that they are Fumbira with the same similarity like Wahima and Tutsi? They rear cows. The outlook looks like them. But are they called Tutsi? They are called Bafumbira.
Okay. Asimwe Banjizi. What is the real truth? Who is being dishonest in this whole situation? Because if I were Kagame and I know that Congolese government is using the EXFA to fight the Banyamulenge and fight Rwanda, I would definitely also support the M23 to counter that kind of force that is against my establishment as a government.
Yes.
Thank you. You see, this whole debate, Kagame, when it comes to PR in Africa, he's number one. Whether we accept it or not, the policies of Rwanda are modeled around Israel. Believe me or not, time will exonerate me in regards to my submission and opinion. The genocide in Rwanda never stopped in 1994. Because the Hutus are being hunted globally, systematically, eliminated. General Sultan Makenga was part of the Rwanda Patriotic Front that was under the command of Paul Kagame in 1994, that intervened and liberated Rwanda in courts. Because if it's a liberation force like the NRA that we had here in Uganda, you liberate all tribes. You don't liberate only one tribe. You don't prioritize one tribe over another. So, Felix Sekedi, what's wrong with him or Congo also supporting FDLR, the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda? Two, if you're saying the Tutsi M23 rebel group, they are right to fight for their citizenship in Congo, which is okay, then why shouldn't the Hutu FDLR, the Democratic Forces
maybe
of the...
just use EXFA. They are
EXFA.
They are also referred to as EXFA.
Why wouldn't they also have a right to go back to Rwanda? You get my point. So, they have a right. And what's the genesis of the Congo problem? It's an economic issue. But the way we all know, Congo being a geoglobal political economic challenge, there are so many interests. When you talk about the East African interest, Congo was right to chase the East African peacekeeping force because they had other hidden agenda, other hidden motives. The issue,
but it's clearly stated they were just because President Felix Tshisekedi of Congo wanted them to fight the M23, and it wasn't a part of their terms of reference.
You see, it's all PR, Banyaji. Case in point, how many tons of gold did Uganda export last year on record? How many tons out of the 14 tons we exported did we mine from Uganda? Where did the extra come from?
And without remittance to URC.
2, who doesn't know that Rwanda's economy, it has been built to a greater extent through the routing of Congo? Let's be honest with each other.
Mr. Mufunya, find a piece of paper and a pen.
3, who doesn't know the scandal that happened at one time when UN helicopters crashed and they were full of gold? So the Congo issue is bigger than the East African region and SADC. It's a global thing. There are so many interests. Europeans, France, Belgium, US, they are all there. That's the reason as to why Felix Tshisekedi will boldly say, we are going to deal with them. Kagame would also say that because he knows whatever this M23 route has to go through, there has to be that money laundering system to enable them get that money. Because as a rebel function, you know it. Their rooted minerals would not be accessing the global markets, but they do. When you look at the weapons they have, they are modern weapons. When you look at the state of the army of M23, the uniform, everything is on point. You get it?
Everything is on point.
Everything is on point. I agree with my colleague here on the issue. Congo also has a governance issue. But it's not that Congolese want it. It's deliberate by upper forces. How did Tshisekedi come into power? For those who don't know, Felix Tshisekedi was based in Fort Portal and Kampala. And he was picked by people who had interest in, they took him there.
That cannot be true.
It's a fact.
That can never be true.
No, at one time, take it or leave it, same applies to you.
There is no way Tshisekedi was
Banyaji, listen, I'm giving you facts.
That is a very wild allegation.
No, it's not
Tshisekedi, who is French speaking, who doesn't even speak English, to be best here in Cameroon.
Who doesn't know that Kabila was here?
No, we know Kabila started in
What
Makerere
about
here.
this other Muzei that was among the rebel leaders in Congo?
Oh, no,
This,
Nkonda.
leave alone in Kunda.
Ntaganda.
No, he was a refugee.
He was a refugee in Uganda.
So, all we are trying to say
Conclude.
is, as I conclude,
Let's allow him conclude.
as I conclude, we have to appreciate the fact that Congo is a member of SADC. SADC has a provision, an attack on one is an attack on all. We remember in 98, even Uganda and Rwanda, we fought because of those minerals. Rwanda killed over 700 Ugandan soldiers. We killed over 1,000 Rwandese. SADC, when they came in to intervene, they chased Ugandans and Rwandese up to the borders. So, my prayer would be one. Whatever is happening in Congo, it's a big disservice to the Congolese. The Tutsis, who are Congolese, it's okay, it's their right. Because this goes back to the colonial days. I remember in 1965,
16th century.
Julius Nyerere, the late president of Tanzania, had proposed a solution to the Congo crisis through African Union of redrawing these borders where some of these people have failed to agree to be in different countries. But still it comes back to a governance issue because globally we have tribes that cross, they stay in different countries and they are the same people. Here at one time, the awardees, the brother was a minister in the Kenyan government.
He was a vice president.
A vice president in Kenya. He was a minister here in Uganda. When you go along Busia border, several families are split by these imaginary lines that were drawn by the whites. So, as I conclude,
please,
the superpowers of this world should intervene to fix Congo, but they are not interested in.
But it is embarrassing
because
that we are inviting the West to intervene in an African problem. Let's stop for a break. That's ridiculous. We should never, ever invite foreign forces on the African continent.
It's tough. It's bold. It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
All right, on the final lap of the show, 17 minutes to the top of the hour on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Good music, good friends. My name is Wes Gibanyaji. It's very exciting to talk about Congo. I think if they are PhDs, people should be able to graduate as a PhD holder in Congo conflict and Palestine-Israel conflict, so that we can invite a person with a PhD in the Congo conflict to help us understand what it has to do with it. Let's get feedback on our social media handles, 912 Cruise FM on X and 91.2 Cruise FM on Facebook. We are asking, what do you think is the lasting solution for the Congo crisis? Get to us and call in on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. I'll be able to read some of the feedback. Wahab, you sat back listening to the arguments of Stephen Katamba Mvunya, who is saying, let us create a country called Chivu that is occupied by the Banyamulenge, and we have peace that is everlasting for Congo. Do you think creating an independent state out of Congo for this group of people is something feasible?
What I have seen, Mr. Banyaji, it is that Stephen might be knowing the problem that in 1994 there was a genocide in Rwanda, and those genocide people, that 14,000 people from Rwanda that were displaced they took charge of Goma in northern Kivu, and they are those ones that are bringing havoc in Congo. And more so, they are the ones that pushed President Joseph Kabila into a peace deal that they want to form a political party, and in that forming a political party and release of prisoners that were in Congo. And then afterwards, I think Kabila, Joseph Kabila thought that maybe they will bring problem, and then he denied the peace deal. And that's why in you remember US alleging that even Rwanda is supporting Congo. They support Banyamulenge. That is the real origin of Banyamulenge getting into Congo. And even you remember UK denied and withdrew $1 million from Congo, from Rwanda, saying that it is supporting the Banyamulenge and supporting the M23. The M23 that they mutinied, those ones that started M23, it was in 2009 that peace deal that they were signed in March 23, March 23rd, that were done by Joseph Kabila, saying that the Banyamulenge from Rwanda, they are going to bring problems in Congo. Okay. So what brings about all this? It is the troops in Uganda and the troops in Rwanda. They are trying to destabilize Congo. Okay, so what I can see, what the problem, it is the root cause of the African unity to come out and maybe take out these. These are real facts. You people, you have to make research and know that the problem is Uganda, Rwanda, that is going to destabilize in the Congo. This is the fact.
Thank you, Ahab. Let me read the feedback. Muhumu's happy on X says this is what European countries, most especially the colonial masters, like to happen in Africa. It's absurd to find that DRC is rich, but it's a poor country. Let's listen to the feedback because of the political turmoil and civil wars. But I think we have the African Union and the UN, which are toothless and backing dogs, I think, implementing anything. They feel saddened. Well, Kayongo's value is saying the situation in Congo, people create that situation. Well, you're not writing proper English. It's hard for me to read. Congo's government should come to the table with M23. Mukibra Ronald, I want to appreciate you. Let me get to X. Gerard Bikorwarohanga, you're saying diplomatic efforts and regional cooperation. Strengthening diplomatic engagement between the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and Rwanda, and other neighboring countries to address cross-border insurgents and prevent foreign support for rebel movements. Orishawa Marcel, you're saying the solution will never be found for Congo because of a lot of countries go to support rebel movements because of their own interests. Mumuzalaki, you're saying the objectives of the ESC was to create peace among the states, but I'm wondering why it was formed. Frankie Ayesiga, you're thanking us for the show and you're saying it is too big for a single government to manage. Felix, Congo is such a big country, it needs to be divided. Nene Dixon, you're saying, and those other countries have started a threaten to cut funding and aid to Rwanda. Godias saying, let's end the conflict in Congo, should sit down and analyze with the rebels. And yes, thank you. Mufunya.
You know, I am sensing a lot of coercion here because I can see people now where they are going. Yes, I can see people where they are going. You know, Africa, we cannot sustain conflicts. Like Israel, like Palestine, what they are doing. No, we are not able. For us, when we conflict, the bullets get over, the guns get lost, and we begin to fix ourselves the way we want, bewitching ourselves. So now, the best management.
The everlasting solution in just one statement.
Yes.
Our time is fast spent.
Yes,
Tell us what should be done
here
for peace to prevail in Eastern Congo.
Let me tell you, eras of trials should end. Because now we have seen the peace process for around 20 years in Congo to manage M23. It has failed. the better solutions, the amicable solutions between Congolese government and the M23 has failed. The only option is what happened in Southern Sudan. Sudan had finished 40 years fighting with the conflict, the north and the west.
Yes.
No, I don't know.
So what
That's
you're
what I
saying,
don't
the
know.
everlasting solution is
That's
to
why.
create an independent country.
Secession, independence of another country. What happened in South Sudan? Now go and see peace.
Okay.
How peace is providing in Southern Sudan and not Sudan.
Okay.
So now.
Okay, thank you.
Once-
Let's go to the lifeline of the show. The telephone calls on 752-912-912 and 780-912-910. The big set.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Banyaji, you are talking to student from Mistingiro.
Yes, please.
On the issue of Congo. Hello?
Can hear you. Go to the matter.
On the issue of Congo, it's just a conflict of interest. All countries surrounding Congo, they are interested in its resources. So what I can advise...
You're calling while laughing. These are serious matters. The big set.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Banyaji Wesige, thank you for the program of today.
Yes, please.
And I would like Peter Mpaka for being informed one.
Okay.
But these Evangelis and Muvunya, they are just trying to deceive us. We have Vandimwe here in Uganda demanding like...
Agaba, we've lost you. Agaba, we've... Hello, caller. Unfortunately, we lost you. The big set.
The big...
Yes.
This is Conrad Nwayeza from Stagwenda again. Now, on the issue of DRC, the problem is that DRC, me, I had an interview of one of the soldiers who went to DRC and fought. He said that you can reach at some extent moving in the bush and you find that God is scattered like beans in the ground. And now what he said that you could pick and pack what you want. Me, I think the problem is the interest of Congo. The people want to gain more from Congo. So what the African Union and the East Africa, they should decide as the leaders and divide the Congo into two parts like how Sudan and South Sudan is.
That was on point. Let me pick the very last call of the show. The big set. Just lost that. Parting shots, Rugaba.
So for me,
are you Rugaba?
You man. You want to serve to the powers of
Yes,
the moderator?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr.
In a second, our time is fast spent.
Thank you very much, moderator and my colleagues and the listeners out there. One of our good citizens here say that unless we develop a central nervous system that feels the pain of each other's, pain. So unless the Kinshasa government sits and does a soul searching, understands that people, wherever they are in their country, feels the pain that each and every person can feel, then they will not find a solution. So they need to sit as Congolese and know that this is our country. What do we need for it? And then do exactly that. If they want to keep fighting,
Thank you, Rugaba. Peter Mpaka.
Yeah. In the election of 2020, and towards that time, President Museveni gave an interview and said, when you hear somebody saying, Fenga Baganda, that one is an enemy of himself. He's an enemy of the Baganda. He is an enemy of Uganda. And he is an enemy of Africa. So the issues of whether Banyamulenge, when you hear Fenga Banyamulenge, Nzengo Mnyamulenge, Fenga Bavandime.
What are you saying?
Those I'm giving an answer in Museveni's own words to the tribal problem that we have been discussing for the past 1 hour, and that is killing people. Those people, and you should check in Museveni's head. How did he sort of those who are saying the Baganda, we are the Baganda. So for me, we must sit on a round table and address this expansionist mentality in the Banyamulenge, in the Banyarwanda, because we have even a group of Bavandimwe here who are saying Fenga Bavandimwe. And lastly,
no, keep that for
the CDF of Uganda should stop being involving himself in the conflict and tribal issues we have in Eastern DRC.
Banjizi, in a second.
In a second, the issue of Congo is a governance issue.
Yes.
And they need to address it by chasing away every foreigner in Congo. Whether the East African community or SADC, Sujui, what, everything, they harmonize and let the national cake be shared among Congolese through good health care services,
thank you.
education, infrastructure, etc.
Wahab.
Well, thank you so much. We saw on 24th February 2013, the 11 African countries came together and they signed a peaceful agreement to end the war in the conflict in the region. So where we saw in October 2013, M23 one went in Uganda, and in November they went in Rwanda. So I believe that in case of the regional integration came together, they might end this war in Rwanda and the conflict of interest between Uganda and Rwanda. When they stop, really they can bring this war to an end.
Okay. But Mufunya, let me give you a second. Your solution of dividing Congo is ridiculous, Mr. Mufunya.
You see, when you have a big land, and you are the only one person in a family, if you don't give it freely to the people, you will be killed. Your conflicts in your home will never end.
Let's meet next Saturday on the Big Seed. My name is Wes Gebanyaji. God bless you. We are out of here. Don't touch your radio. Interesting things are coming your way. Good morning.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this radio station or its management.
This radio is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission, UCC.